Naofumi is a sweaty nerd who was summoned to another world as a hero but got clowned for lacking offensive skills. However, after buying a powerful girl from a shady slave den, he teams up with her and defeats his enemies by day and break beds by night. It all begins in a library where Naofumi picks up a book explaining how the world will soon be hit by catastrophic apocalyptic waves, and only the 4 cardinal heroes can save it from looking like the Twin Towers. Each of the legendary heroes is assigned a unique weapon: sword, spear, bow, and shield. Suddenly, the book flares with light, and in the next moment, Naofumi is surrounded by a circle of mages. Blinking in confusion, Naofumi watches as 3 other twinks demand to know where they are. The mages take them to the King Altkray, who welcomes them to the land of Malromek and asks them for an introduction. The guy holding the sword introduces himself as Ren. The spear wielder reveals his name as Motohiyasu, while the archer calmly introduces himself as Itsuki. However, when the king ignores Naofumi, he instantly realizes he is the wimpy shield hero. Altkray then explains that they've been summoned as the cardinal heroes to defend this world against apocalyptic waves, which unleashes monsters that are hellbent on clapping humanity to extinction. Once he is done with the lecture, Altkray urges them to open their statuses. Naofumi and the heroes learn they are all at level 1. To level up, he minister explains they must all set out on separate adventures to get stronger. When the heroes express their annoyance over it, Altkray commands the kingdom's finest warriors to pledge themselves to the hero of their choice. To Naofumi's disbelief, he finds himself alone and crashes out in front of everyone. Suddenly, a girl named Mine takes pity and announces that she will join the useless shield hero. Naofumi's 3-inch PP cheers at the thought of having a baddie on his side to make things sweeter. Altkray tosses him a bigger bag of gold than the others. As the heroes set off, Mine leads Naofumi to Elhart's armory. However, when he grabs a sword, a jolt of electricity shoots through him. The status screen flashes open, revealing to Naofumi that he can't wield anything but his shield.
Huh?
In the end, Mine convinces Naofumi to just spend his money on a clown outfit, which will keep him safe. Ready to grind, Naofumi heads into the fields to fight slimes and struggles miserably, while Ren slices through them with ease. That night, Mine takes Naofumi back to Elhart's shop where she pushes her badonkadonkers on him so he can buy her a Gucci armor set. Naofumi listens to the shrimp and coughs up half his money. Then, to impress her more, he treats her to a fancy dinner at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, telling her how lucky he feels to have such a great partner. In response, Mine smiles sweetly and they decide to call it a night. Next morning, Naofumi wakes up and finds his money and clothes gone. Panicking, he runs to Mine's room when he is apprehended by knights who bring him to the castle. Confused, he sees Mine hiding behind Motohiyasu. Altkray orders her to reveal what happened and Mine states that last night Naofumi forced himself on her. Luckily, she escaped and found Motohiyasu, who helped her get away. Naofumi tries to tell the court and the heroes that everything Mine is saying is a lie, but nobody believes him. Instead, they label him as the diddler hero. Enraged, Naofumi sees Mine mocking him, making him realize that everyone hates him for being the weak shield hero. However, since the apocalypse is near, Altkray tells Naofumi that he won't throw him in jail, but everyone in the streets will know he diddled an innocent girl. Before leaving, Naofumi warns them that he has seen Redo of Healer, now betrayed and casted out. Naofumi runs into Elhart, who nearly punches him until he sees the sheer despair in Naofumi's face. Realizing he's innocent, Elhart gives him a cloak to help him hide. Later, Naofumi fights the slimes alone and reaches level 2 when he enters the market to sell the slimes. He is treated unfairly, so he unleashes his wrath on the merchant to show everyone that he is not to mess with anymore. After spending some days in the forest, Naofumi comes across an expensive plant which he feeds to the shield and unlocks the leaf shield. Using the upgraded shield, Naofumi improves the quality of the plant and makes big bucks by selling it. One night, Naofumi is attacked by a couple of goons. He defeats them using slimes and his shield, but soon realizes that he can't fight proper monsters like this. Overhearing his rant, an ugly coin sniffer appears from the shadows. He introduces himself as Belokas and tells Naofumi he can help him. Naofumi states he isn't looking for a blowy from an ugly goblin like him, but Belokas laughs and tells him to just follow him. Soon, they arrive at a tavern where Belokas reveals he is a slave owner. Naofumi tells him that just because he is white doesn't mean he'd want to own a slave. Belokas laughs, explaining that he puts his slave under a curse which allows the masters to use them however they like, and if the slaves were to disobey, they would die a painful death. After seeing manly slaves, Naofumi comes across a sick demi-human girl. Belokas explains her last master was a sadist who broke her mind, leaving her obedient but empty. Thinking she'd be easy to handle, Naofumi decides to buy her. Once Belokas performs the binding ritual, Naofumi finds out he can now access the girl's status as well. He then yells at the girl to reveal her name, and she chokes out the word, Raftelia. Afterwards, Naofumi brings her to Elhart's weapon shop where he buys her the cheapest gear and bluntly tells her she'll be fighting monsters from now on. Due to the slave curse, Raftelia has no choice but to agree. Noticing how she doesn't have meat on her bones, Naofumi brings her to a nearby restaurant, one that normally doesn't allow demi-humans inside. Whispers fill the room as the hated shield hero and his demi-human slave take a seat, but Naofumi ignores everyone and orders a meal. When the food arrives, Raftelia's eyes light up and she eats like she hasn't seen a proper meal in years. Back on the road, Nofumi has her fight weak monsters to grow stronger. After a long day of hunting, he hands her bitter medicine for her cough. She chokes on the taste, which makes Nofumi yell at her. That night, Raphtalia dreams of the day her parents were murdered by monsters during the first apocalyptic wave. She wakes up screaming, and Nofumi instinctively hugs her, hoping no one catches him and accuses him of cosplaying Leonardo DiCaprio. The next day, they visit the herbalist who reveals that learning medicine is rare after the last wave. Seeing an opportunity to make money, Nofumi borrows tools to gather herbs. Over time, Raphtalia begins to trust him, but when Nofumi tells her to slay a rabbit, she freezes terrified at the sight of blood. The slave curse activates, shocking her. Nofumi warns that if she can't fight, she'll be useless and abandoned. Upon hearing the threat, she forces herself to hunt the rabbit. Soon they reach Loot Town and hear the mines pay well for monster crystals. In the tunnels, Raphtalia panics when they run into a beast like the one that tore her parents to shred. Nofumi shields her but can't attack. He tells her to run if she can't fight, but remembering her parents' sacrifice, Raphtalia gathers her courage and slays the monster. While Nofumi protects her. A week later, Nofumi gets roughed up by a wild boar. While resting, he grumbles about unlocking tons of shield skills, but still not being strong enough to handle the coming apocalyptic waves. Later that day, he and Raphtalia stop by Elhart's armory. The blacksmith nearly drops dead when he sees Raphtalia now fully grown. Nofumi, however, isn't impressed since he prefers his women like the numbers on a clock, never past 12. Annoyed, Raphtalia snaps that they're here to buy him proper armor, not argue about his questionable tastes. Nofumi insists he doesn't need any, but Raphtalia fires back that without extra protection, he'll die like the loser everyone thinks he is. Hearing their bickering, Elhart shows them a heavy iron-plated set, but Raphtalia bluntly states that Nofumi isn't Chad enough to pull that off. Elhart nods in agreement and promises to have a custom set ready by tomorrow. The next day, Nofumi tries on his new barbarian armor, custom made just for him. Raphtalia instantly gushes, wetter than the busty Nulf next door, while Nofumi frowns, saying he looks more like a thug than a hero. Raphtalia shuts him up by telling him it suits him perfectly. Suddenly, a commotion stirs outside. A parade of knights marches through the streets. Raphtalia mentions how tense the town is since the waves are close. Nofumi sighs, wishing he at least knew when the waves would hit. Elhart raises a brow, shocked that the shield hero doesn't know about the Harglass clock in the church. He informs them that when the last grain falls, the waves begin. Inside the church, Nofumi runs into Motoyasu, Mine, and the other heroes. The moment Motoyasu spots Raphtalia, his needle dick practically jumps from his pants as he starts shamelessly flirting, much to Mine's disgust. But Raphtalia stands her ground, snapping that she's with Nofumi. Upset at first, Motoyasu stammers out a challenge to Nofumi, but the shield hero ignores him, grabs Raphtalia by the hand, and storms off fuming. That night, Raphtalia carefully asks Nofumi what really happened with the other heroes. Coldly, he tells her to mind her own business, thinking she wouldn't believe him even if he told the truth. The next day, noticing his tension, Raphtalia gently assures him she's glad they met and vows to be his cat girl with a gorilla grip kitty from now on. Before Nofumi can reply, the hourglass empties. Instantly, the heroes are teleported to the battlefield where the wave hits hardest, while the other three heroes rush off to fight the wave for glory. Nofumi and Raphtalia arrive at the loot village where he orders Raphtalia to guide the people to safety while he acts as bait. Climbing the bell tower, he rings the bell furiously, luring swarms of zombies and monster bees toward him. Once they close in, he sets the place ablaze, burning as many as he can in one go. Seeing his courage, the villagers insist on staying to fight. Grateful, but realistic. Nofumi warns them to run when a hulking zombie beast stomps into view. Just as he braces for the worst, Raphtalia returns and joins the battle. Together, they take the monster down. Raphtalia jumps to level 22, while Nofumi reaches 19. Suddenly, fireballs rain from the sky. Nofumi shields Raphtalia as arrogant knights boast about wiping out the monsters with flames, completely ignoring the risk to the villagers. Furious, Raphtalia charges them, outraged by their behavior. In response, the royal commander laughs, mocking her for being a demi-human siding with the shield hero. Before she snaps, Nofumi stops her, reminding her of the real threat. Massive zombie looming behind the knights. They leap into action. Nofumi calls for the knights to regroup and help, but the cowardly commander orders his men to abandon them and support the other heroes instead. Only a brave lieutenant and a few loyal soldiers stay to help Nofumi hold the line. Meanwhile, the other heroes finish the wave's core monster and rush off to claim their reward, ignoring everything else. Nofumi stays behind, making sure the village is safe, and when the villagers thank him, he brushes them off, saying he doesn't need praise or thanks. However, seeing Raphtalia grieving over the lives lost, Nofumi's tone softens as he gently pats her head, telling her she did well. That night, Alcray throws a grand party to celebrate the heroes' success in the second wave. While everyone drinks and laughs, Naofumi sits in a dark corner, hating every second. If not for the reward, he wouldn't have bothered showing up. Meanwhile, Raphtalia skips through the crowd, instantly catching Motoyasu's eye. Just as he's about to make his move, a jealous mind grabs him and whispers something. Raphtalia joins Naofumi and urges him to try the food, but he coldly refuses, focusing instead on his status screen. Here he notices a new teleportation skill. Suddenly, Motoyasu storms up, demanding a duel. He accuses Naofumi of being a scumbag for keeping a slave. Naofumi reminds him that slavery is legal in this world, but Motoyasu self-righteously argues that as men from another world, they should rise above such things. A smug and obviously biased Alcree appears, threatening to throw him in jail if he refuses the duel. When Raphtalia protests, saying she serves Naofumi by choice, the soldiers drag her away before she can finish. The king brushes off her words, claiming the slave crest controls her will. Left with no choice, Naofumi agrees, but makes it clear that Raphtalia comes back to him if he wins. Mine mocks him, reminding the crowd that the shield hero can't attack, which sparks laughter from the nobles. The duel begins. Though Naofumi can't strike, he holds his ground, blocking every blow with his elite metal shield. Calmly, he points out that Motoyasu lost the moment he couldn't break through. Motoyasu charges again, but Naofumi counters and sends him flying. But Main isn't done cheating. She secretly casts magic to trip Naofumi, giving Motoyasu the advantage. The king immediately declares Motoyasu the winner. Main smirks, taunting Naofumi that he's doomed to be alone forever. While the king praises his brave spear hero, proud his daughter picked the right man. Standing in the arena, Naofumi's eyes widen as the truth crashes down. Mine is Princess Malti in disguise. She had planned this from the start, stealing his money, sabotaging him, framing him, all to lift Motoyasu nuts and ruin his life. And the king had been in on it the whole time. Dark mist begins seeping from Naofumi's shield as he unlocks a mysterious curse series, which feeds on Naofumi's despair, dragging him deeper into darkness. Suddenly, one of the ministers coldly announces that Motoyasu has freed Raphtalia. The mist thickens as Naofumi sees Raphtalia walking away, abandoning him. In reality, Raphtalia argues with everyone over Naofumi's innocence. Ren and Itsuki step forward, calling out Malti for using magic. Trapped, Malti snaps that no one in the audience saw her cast magic, and leave for the other heroes to mock her, saying no one will accuse a princess. Raphtalia quickly rushes to Naofumi, who is still lost in the shield's dark influence. She calls out to him, reminding him how he saved her, how he gave her hope. Slowly, Naofumi lifts his head and finally sees her. He dark mist fades as his anger breaks, causing him to slump into Raphtalia's warm lap. Elsewhere, Queen Morelia gets news about her useless husband. She instantly figures out that Alcree is dancing to their crotch goblin, Malti's tune, and sighs in frustration. The informant assures her that everything in the capital is under their watch, so she doesn't need to stress. Back at the castle, Alcree rewards the heroes for their role in the wave, except Naofumi. He coldly tells him that owning a slave girl means no payment, but shockingly, Ren and Itsuki step in, protesting on Naofumi's behalf. They point out that not only did Naofumi protect the villagers while the rest fought for glory, but Motoyasu also cheated during the duel thanks to Malti's magic. Motoyasu and Malti weakly argue there was no cheating, but everyone ignores them. Ren flatly reminds the king that Naofumi must be compensated for saving innocent lives. Seeing no support, Alcree caves and tosses Naofumi a few miserable copper coins. Before Naofumi can commit war crimes worse than a certain German painter, Raphtalia drags him away. Later, Raphtalia insists on renewing her slave crest from Beloka's. Naofumi protests, but she says she likes her loyalty stamp. Nearby, a cart full of monster eggs catches Naofumi's eye. Belukas explains their lottery eggs. 0 silver for a random chance at anything from a Thalolial to a dragon. Trusting his American gambling spirit, Naofumi buys one, hoping for a monster who'll do kegels on his wee-wee. On their way back, they visit the herbalist, who thanks Naofumi for saving Loot Village and gifts him a book of medicine recipes, adding that since Naofumi travels with a half-animal, he might need cures for Unstandard right after. The magic shop owner hands over a spellbook, revealing Naofumi's natural talent for healing and support magic, while Raphtalia can learn Leet, Dark, and even illusion magic. Reading the books later, Naofumi realizes his shield translates spoken words, but not writing, so he'll have to learn the local script. Raphtalia insists they study both language and magic together since they have a month before the next wave. The next morning, the egg hatches and out pops a Thalolial chick. It grows at lightning speed, and Naofumi names her Philo. But trouble arrives fast. Motoyasu's party shows up with royal knights and a decree Motoyasu is now lord of Loot Village. His first genius plan? A 50 silver tax for anyone entering or leaving the village, which would bankrupt the locals. Naofumi warns them this move will ruin their reputation faster than the stock market crash. Before things escalate, a group of masked girls arrive with an urgent message for Malti. Knowing the girls work for her mother the queen, Malti changes the decree. The dispute will now be settled in a dragon race between Naofumi and Motoyasu. Naofumi tries to refuse, but Philo, being a big, dumb, competitive bird, challenges Motoyasu's dragon on her own. During training, Motoyasu mocks Philo, only for her to launch a solid kick right into his jewels. The race begins, and thanks to Philo's ridiculous speed, Nofumi takes the lead, but Motoyasu's knights cheat, laying magic traps along the route. Despite the sabotage, Philo powers through, and with Nofumi's shield deflecting spells, they win. Right after, Philo shocks everyone by transforming into Philo 2.0. Malty screeches about cheating, but the masked girls reveal Motoyasu's side were the real cheaters. Defeated and humiliated, Motoyasu's party leaves. Nofumi is offered a reward but declines. Instead, Philo suggests they take an old wagon, which she happily pulls, giving Nofumi and Raphtalia free rides. The next morning, Nofumi is shocked to find the big bird gone, replaced by a blonde girl, now calling him master and demanding food. Elhart is about to violate his sandwich when Nofumi, Raphtalia, and a blonde girl in a cloak walk into his shop. Hearing the girl mumble about being hungry, Elhart grins and offers her a bite of his foot-long sub. But before he can react, the girl transforms into Nofumi's filial Philo and devours the entire thing in one bite. Nofumi explains that they recently took Philo to Belucas, who revealed that royal filials, kings and queens, can shapeshift into human forms. Through the story, Nofumi asks Elhart for clothes that won't rip apart every time Philo morphs from girl to a model hefty victim. Elhart admits he doesn't make such enchanted gear and sends them to a dressmaker. The tailor, however, needs magic thread to craft shape-changing clothes and directs them to the local magic shop. At the magic shop, the owner explains her spinning wheel needs a fresh magic crystal to produce enchanted thread, but fetching one will take time. To make up for it, she offers Philo a free consultation and discovers the bird girl has an affinity for wind magic. With no other choice for now, Nofumi decides they'll make money the old-fashioned way, selling goods from town to town with Philo pulling the carriage. On the road, they meet a man frantically begging for help. His mother is sick, and he needs to get home with medicine. After confirming the guy can pay, Nofumi has Philo sprint him home, where Nofumi uses medicine and his skills to cure the old woman. As a reward, they get a feast of free food. For the next few days, the crew earns decent coins selling potions, goods, and giving fast rides. They build a local reputation. Hikwal, a traveling merchant, informs Nofumi that people now call him the saintly healer and Philo the god of domestic birds. As they chat, Raphtalia notices thugs blocking the road. The thugs demand Nofumi hand over Hikwal and Raphtalia for some clap sessions. However, Nofumi, Raphtalia, and Philo are unmoved. Before they get cocky, Raphtalia turns invisible and strikes, while Philo summons a tornado and wipes out the rest. After the beatdown, the thugs confess they were hired to catch Hikwal. They mock Nofumi, saying no guard will ever take the shield hero's side. Now ticked, Nofumi threatens to feed them to Philo's bottomless stomach unless they pay up. Terrified, they spill the location of their hideout and lead the crew to a stash of stolen goods, which is now Nofumi's property. After cashing in, Nofumi demands extra payment from Hikwal for saving his life. Impressed by Nofumi's shark-like hustle, the merchant offers to teach him how to refine metals, enchant gems, and dabble in magic crafting. Nofumi eagerly accepts. Through Hikwal's contacts, Nofumi hears juicy gossip about the other heroes. Motoyasu saved a village by planting a legendary crop. Ren slayed a dragon, however there's no solid info on Itsuki. Hikwal also gives Nofumi a recommendation letter granting mining rights to search for rare ores and gems. Guided by this, Nofumi heads to a shady cave with Raphtalia, Philo, and the magic shop owner. Inside, they hear eerie whispers, illusions that stir painful memories and fear. The magic shop owner warns that the cave beasts are psychic mimics, messing with their minds. She dispels the illusions and Philo blasts the monsters away with wind magic. Deeper in, they face a giant Nu who is as big as Yamama. After a tough battle, Raphtalia and Philo slay the beast, and they finally retrieve the magic crystal they need. Returning to the magic shop, they use Philo's mana to craft enchanted thread, finally completing her special clothes that won't explode every time she shapeshifts. A couple of days later, Nofumi sets out with his gang towards the Lerno village with a large supply of herbicide. Upon arrival, Nofumi and the crew find the village strangled by aggressive vines. Raphtalia bluntly asks the chief if he's tried setting the plants on fire. The chief sighs, saying they've tried everything. Nofumi shrugs and tells them this is the perfect opportunity to go vegan. The chief nervously mentions that some reckless adventurers are already trying to handle the problem alone. Hearing this, Nofumi sends Philo to fetch the fools before they have plants versus humans. Moments later, Philo returns dragging the adventurers by their collars. When she flaunts her ability to speak, everyone realizes they are in the presence of Nofumi the saintly healer. After curing the poisoned villagers, they beg Nofumi to finish the job and destroy the bioplant for good. The chief explains that this disaster was thanks to Motoyasu, who planted a bioplant seed from an alchemist's lair in a dumb attempt to fix the famine. Nofumi scolds the villagers for trusting anything that came from Motoyasu's pea-brain. With that said, they face the giant bioplant. Raphtalia and Philo rush in and end up tripping over each other, with Raphtalia landing in an awkward pose that makes Philo smirk. Nofumi sighs, tanks the plant's assaults with his shield, and pours herbicide right into its core. With the monster weakened, Nofumi orders his girls to collect seeds, but they immediately start bickering over who should do it just so they can get praised by Nofumi. Later, Nofumi feeds the seeds and dead plant matter to his shield, unlocking new abilities to analyze and manipulate plants. After some experiments, he modifies the crops to be safe and tells the villagers the famine problem is solved. Broke but grateful, the villagers pay him in fruit. Ever the businessman, Nofumi flips the modified seeds to Hickwall for a fat profit. Impressed by Nofumi's capitalist mindset, Hickwall hands him another delivery job to a hot spring town. Upon completing the delivery, Nofumi snags extra coins and suggests they relax for the night. In the hot spring, Raftalia spots Nofumi brushing Philo's hair and wonders if she should check his hard drive. Before she can catch Nofumi in 4K, she overhears girls gossiping about latium, a rare ore that can make love-boosting accessories. Determined to win Nofumi's heart, Raftalia sets off to find it, only to discover that Philo is also headed towards the same location to retrieve an egg since she is convinced Nofumi likes round things. A race breaks out between the two until Philo trips off a cliff. Raftalia grabs her, but they both tumble down right onto the back of a massive boar. After a chaotic chase, they reach the bird nest containing the latium, but the boar smashes everything, scattering the precious ore and breaking the eggs. Frustrated they couldn't get the ore or the eggs, both girls team up to slay the boar. Back in town, villagers beg to buy the boar's corpse for a huge price. Knowing Nofumi's love for cash, the girls happily sell it. Instead of gold, they surprise Nofumi with a high-quality crafting hammer. Pleased, Nofumi rewards them both with head pats, finally making the girls beam with joy. Late at night, while Raftalia and Philo sleep peacefully, Nofumi quietly works on crafting small presents for them. By morning, the group is back on the road when they come across an anxious elderly woman and a young boy. As Nofumi and Raftalia offer them food, the woman warns them not to continue down the path as the town ahead is overrun with sickness. But since helping NPCs is how he makes his coin, Nofumi arrives at the village and is greeted by the local doctor, who recognizes him as the saintly healer. Nofumi treats the sick, much to everyone's relief, but he quickly explains that the symptoms will return unless the source of the illness is dealt with. The doctor then reveals the true cause: toxic winds blowing down from the mountain, where a dragon's corpse lies rotting. It was slain about a month ago by Ren, who left it to decay, and the site became a local attraction, but the decomposing body began polluting the air, spreading sickness through the surrounding area. When the doctor informs Nofumi that the kingdom has done nothing to help, he offers a deal: pay him the reward intended for the royal forces, and he'll handle the rest. Finding Nofumi's behavior crappy, the nurse tells him that even Annie Ender Watchers are better than a leech like him. In response, Nofumi tells her to piss off. Once the agreement is made, the group heads up the mountain, defeating monsters along the way. At the summit, they find the dragon's massive corpse. Hence suddenly it rises up as a zombie dragon. Philo charges in recklessly and is swallowed whole. Shocked and furious, Nofumi is once again engulfed by the hatred and darkness emitting from his shield, and within seconds, he unlocks the curse series, the Rage Shield. Everything around him burns as his emotions spiral out of control. But then he hears a soft voice reminding him of who he is: a protector, someone his allies look up to. As his anger fades, Nofumi sees Raftalia injured beside him, and his focus returns. Realizing he accidentally caused Raftalia pain, Nofumi tries to heal her when suddenly the dragon attacks again. With Raftalia gone, Nofumi finds himself in a pickle. He needs the dark power of the shield to attack the dragon, but if he seeks its help, he will cause a fire big enough to burn down Hollywood. All of a sudden, Philo bursts out from within its stomach, having destroyed it from the inside. Raftalia also regains her consciousness in time for Philo to reveal she ate a magic crystal that had been fueling the beast. After the battle, Nofumi returns Raftalia to the village for treatment. Later, Philo gives him a fragment of the crystal. Suspicious, Nofumi wonders if it's safe, and after inspecting it, he feeds it to his shield. Suddenly, Raftalia asks him to sleep with her for tonight. But having experienced Hose in action, Nofumi instead tells Philo to rest with Raftalia while he steps out to goon alone. Raftalia, determined not to be a burden, continues fighting alongside Nofumi and Philo, taking on monsters with renewed focus. Once the battle ends, Nofumi notices Raftalia looking medium cooked and decides it's time to return to the capital and give her proper healing with a strong dose of holy water straight from Sydney Sweeney's bathwater. On their way back, the group comes across a girl sitting alone, surrounded by a group of Philolials. But as they approach, the birds quickly scatter. Philo watches them run and remarks that they look tasty. Nofumi gently reminds her that eating Philolials would technically make her a cannibal. The girl, excited by Philo's ability to talk, introduces herself as Melty. She explains that she loves Philolials and happily offers Philo some food. Philo quickly warms up to her, and Nofumi allows them to spend time together while he and Raftalia handle a nearby request. That evening, Philo returns with Melty, who explains that she became separated from her escort and now needs help getting back to Castletown. Seeing the opportunity to assist and possibly earn a reward, Nofumi agrees to give her a ride. Unbeknownst to them, a spy watches the exchange from a distance. During their travels, the group begins to grow closer to Melty. One night, however, Nofumi and Raphtalia notice Melty's clothes neatly placed near a sleeping Philo, and momentarily worry something has happened. Philo soon wakes up and explains that Melty is just resting inside her feathers. Raphtalia skeptically touches Philo's feathers and, to her surprise, instantly falls asleep as well. Eventually, they reach Castle Town. Nofumi leaves the others behind and heads to the church to purchase the holy water, where he is met by the high priest, who greets him with forced politeness and congratulates him on his recent duel with Motoyasu. Nofumi ignores the pleasantries and directly asks for the highest quality holy water available. Though the staff initially tries to hand him a lower grade version, the high priest intervenes and orders them to bring out the real one. Straight from Sydney Sweeney's toilet, Nofumi takes it and quietly leaves, wary of overstaying in the church. Soon after, he is pursued by a knight. He quickly splits off from Raphtalia, instructing her to regroup at Philo's carriage. As he navigates through the town, Motoyasu suddenly confronts him and accuses him of enslaving another girl, referring to Philo. Before Nofumi can respond, Motoyasu lashes out, causing a scene in the marketplace. A knight tries to defuse the situation, but Malty appears and insists that a duel should be held. Using her authority as a princess, just before tensions escalate, Melty arrives with her own guards. She firmly reprimands both Motoyasu and Malty, scolding her sister for abusing her power and urging the knights to stand down. Philo also returns and is immediately targeted by Motoyasu's attempts to charm her, but Philo, clearly unimpressed, transforms into her filial form and kicks in where the sun doesn't shine. Later, inside the weapon shop, Melty formally introduces herself as the second princess and reveals that she has been named heir to the throne due to Malty's history of thottery. She further explains that she had no idea Nofumi was the shield hero when they first met, but now she wants to speak to him about something important. Still mistrustful of the royal family, Nofumi bluntly tells Melty to bugger off. Melty, still unable to grasp why Nofumi despises her, tries one last time to speak with him, but Nofumi cuts her off coldly, telling her to head back to the castle. Defeated, Melty quietly turns away, recalling her true mission, a task entrusted to her by the queen, who strongly opposes how the royal family has treated Nofumi and wants her to support him. Once she leaves, Nofumi firmly forbids Philo from seeing Melty again. Heartbroken, Philo storms out of the shop. Moments later, she returns, his time with a group of young knights. Among them is Ake, the same soldier Nofumi met in the marketplace. Ake respectfully asks to fight alongside him in the next wave, revealing that after seeing him fight in the loot village, he became his top G. Nofumi, without missing a beat, demands 150 silver coins as a party fee. Raphtalia protests, calling him a vulture, but Nofumi doesn't budge. Understanding the challenge, the knights accept and leave to gather the money. Afterward, Nofumi learns from Ulhart that adventurers can receive upgrades at the church. However, upon arriving, the bratty nuns bluntly inform him that he has been banned from upgrades by royal decree, realizing the only spirit guiding these nuns is bitterness. Nofumi heads to Belucas, who suggests visiting neighboring countries for class upgrades. He also recommends acquiring a wyvern claw for Philo's gear, an idea Nofumi agrees to. To test out the new equipment, Nofumi, Raphtalia, and Philo enter the sewers and encounter a giant crocodile. The fight is swift, and with her improved strength, Raphtalia reflects on how far they'd come. She then quietly shares a hope that once the waves are over, she wants to go with Nofumi to his world. The next day, they arrive at a northern town, where Nofumi sees refugees begging for food. He learns that Itsuki's interference in a local rebellion only made things worse. Saddened but composed, Nofumi helps them with what little supplies he can spare. Back in Castle Town, Nofumi overhears Ren and Itsuki arguing. They're frustrated over their declining reputations and mention that someone else is taking all the adventuring work. Amused, Nofumi lets out a short laugh, drawing their attention. They confront him, accusing him of stealing their commissions. Nofumi calmly tells them that he's merely fixing the damage they caused, and not for praise, but because someone had to. Ren accepts his mistake, but Itsuki refuses, calling him a liar. With only 72 hours left until the next wave, Nofumi and his team visit Elhart for final preparations. Elhart equips them with new weapons, just as Ake and his knights return, proudly presenting the coins Nofumi asked for. But instead of accepting the money, Nofumi tells them to use it to buy proper gear and prepare themselves for battle. The young knights nod, grateful for the opportunity, while Philo beams with excitement, happy to have made new friends who don't just see her as premium chicken wings. As the time for the next wave draws near, Nofumi quietly hands Raphtalia a bracelet, explaining that it will enhance her mana reserves. Philo, clearly jealous, pouts until Nofumi gently clips an accessory into her feathers, telling her it will increase her agility. Content with their new upgrades, the team readies themselves. Nofumi and his newly expanded party teleport to the site of the second wave. Immediately, they're met by a swarm of monsters, but Nofumi holds the front with ease. As they press forward, they spot an elderly woman holding her ground against low-tier enemies. Raphtalia, impressed, remarks that the old woman clearly needs to be drafted in the Third World War, recognizing her as the same woman he once healed. Nofumi gives a small nod as she thanks him. 3 hours pass, and Nofumi begins to grow suspicious. The wave should have been resolved by now. With no answers in sight, he and the others make their way toward the source of the disturbance and are met with a floating pirate ship crawling with all the Yeeted babies. From across the globe, on board, they find Itsuki, who informs them that Ren and Motoyasu have been too busy arguing over which wave boss to defeat first, causing a complete stalemate. Annoyed but unsurprised, Nofumi boards the ship alongside Raphtalia and Philo. Motoyasu, as usual, mocks him and leaves for Nofumi to curtly remind him that the series isn't called The Spear Hero Rises, shutting him down quickly. As they clean up the lower enemies, the true boss of the wave reveals itself, the Soul Eater. The heroes launch their assault, but the longer the fight stretches, the more Nofumi realizes the stakes. If this continues, the nearby villages will be wiped out. Determined to end it, he activates the Rage Shield. But with it comes the voice of the zombie dragon, its lingering hatred infecting both Nofumi and Philo, sending them into a berserk state. The other heroes recoil at the sight, unable to comprehend what's happening, but Raphtalia steps forward, defending Nofumi. She calls out their incompetence, reminding them that Nofumi had to push this far because they failed to act when it mattered. Within the chaos, Nofumi sees Raphtalia and Philo, the ones he swore to protect. That promise helps him regain control. He channels the shield's power and lands the final blow, defeating the Soul Eater alone. Just as the dust settles, a mysterious woman appears. With a mocking tone, she belittles Ren, Itsuki, and Motoyasu, calling them nothing more than twinks with fancy hair. Then, turning to Nofumi, she declares that only he is worthy of being called a hero, and that from this point on, she will be his enemy. After introducing herself as Glass, the mysterious woman boldly announces that the real battle of the wave is only just beginning. Curious, Nofumi tries to analyze her through his status menu, but is caught off guard when no information appears. Glass, having watched their fight against the Soul Eater, dismissively mocks Ren, Itsuki, and Motoyasu, calling them Nofumi's servants. Insulted, the trio launch their strongest attacks, but Glass effortlessly blocks their moves and counters with ease, knocking all three out of the fight in seconds. As they crash and burn, Nofumi steps in to face her head-on. He tries multiple attacks, cycling through every trick he knows, but nothing makes a dent. Glass praises his defensive strength, admitting he's the only one who can stand against her, but even then he is far from her equal. Realizing that the wave is almost over and further combat is pointless, Nofumi makes a tactical decision to retreat with his party before anyone gets seriously hurt. Back in the capital, Nofumi is summoned to the royal court. The king begrudgingly acknowledges his victory over the Soul Eater, but quickly shifts tone, demanding to know how a so-called defensive hero unleashed such devastating power. Calm and composed, Nofumi smirks and tells the king that if he really wants answers, he should lick his toes clean. That, of course, enrages Alcree, who threatens Nofumi's companions, but Nofumi fires back coldly, warning the king to tread carefully or else he will unlock his Mangekyo Sharingan and wipe out the whole kingdom. After he storms out, Melty arrives, pleading with her father to reconsider his stance on Nofumi. Malty cuts in, snapping at her sister for siding with the shield hero, but Melty doesn't back down. She reminds Malty that they live in a brutal world where the consequences of foolish decisions can be fatal. Then for royalty. Malty clenches her chocolate starfish in anger while Melty walks away. Outside the palace, Nofumi prepares to leave for the neighboring country of Shieldfrieden to get class upgrades for Raphtalia and Philo. Before they set off, Elhart gifts them new weapons, much to their excitement. Later that night, while camping, the party is unexpectedly visited by Melty herself. She pleads with Nofumi once more, asking him to return to the castle and make peace. Nofumi firmly refuses, telling her he's done playing politics with her family. But just as he begins to turn away, one of Melty's knights suddenly lunges at her with a blade drawn. As the knight lunges at Melty, Nofumi instinctively steps in and saves her. But before he can catch his breath, the surrounding knights immediately accuse him of kidnapping the princess. They call him a traitor and how he should be made to drink the filthy liquid that leaks from trash bags. A brief fight follows, but the knights soon retreat, only to later distribute a manipulated version of the incident, and that conveniently paints Nofumi as the villain for anyone willing to listen. The fallout is immediate. Nofumi and his party are blacklisted across villages and towns, branded as fugitives. Reflecting on what happened, Nofumi recalls how he captured the knight who tried to assassinate Melty. During his interrogation, he discovered a rosary tucked into the knight's robes, an unmistakable symbol of the Church of the Three Heroes. Raphtalia explained to him that this religious sect is widely followed across Melromark and, more importantly, excludes the shield hero from its teachings. Back in the present, Nofumi vents his rage against the kingdom, drawing protests from Melty. She insists her father had no hand in this conspiracy. Nofumi doesn't believe her for a second. Frustrated, goes out to think without distractions. After some reflection in the quiet of the woods, he returns with a newfound resolve. He announces that he's done with Melromark and intends to leave the country. Melty, startled, says she plans to return to the castle, but Nofumi points out that doing so would only get her life subscription canceled and urges her to come with him if she values her life. Once Melty reluctantly agrees, Nofumi declares they move out at dawn. After a long day of travel, the group stops to camp. While Philo and Melty venture off to explore nearby, Raphtalia questions Nofumi about his chosen destination, Silfelt. He explains that based on how persistently the knights have tried to keep them away from it, there's clearly something important there. Somewhere they might finally find support. That night, as the others sleep, Melty quietly approaches Nofumi and asks why he harbors such deep hatred for her father. When he calmly recounts everything, the false accusations, the attempted executions, the smear campaign, Melty listens in stunned silence. Before they can finish the conversation, they are ambushed. To their shock, the other three heroes, Ren, Itsuki, and Motohiyasu, arrive with troops, claiming they're here to detain Nofumi. Both he and Melty try to explain that it's a setup, but Melty interrupts, accusing Nofumi of manipulating her sister and everyone else around him. As always, most people believe the hot Cheeto girl without question. A battle breaks out. Both Ren and Itsuki are visibly uneasy, especially watching how aggressively Melty targets her own sibling. Driven to desperation, Nofumi activates the Rage Shield to create a barrier, buying time for an escape. Before leaving, he locks eyes with Ren and throws the rosary to him, urging him to keep searching for the truth. Once they find a quiet moment to recover, the group is approached by a cloaked figure, a spy sent from the Queen, who reveals the Queen wants a meeting. With no other option, Nofumi agrees. Suddenly, Nofumi and his party find the forest ahead engulfed in flames, and instantly realize this is Melty's handiwork. By the next morning, they discover that all routes to Silfelt have been sealed off, effectively blocking their path. With few options remaining, Melty suggests heading toward the next region. According to her, the ruling noble is a staunch ally of the Queen and a rare supporter of demi-humans. However, he's also the last pro-demi-human lord still in power, especially after the death of the Queen's right-hand man, the former Lord of Sieto. Hearing this, Raphtalia quietly reveals that she once lived in Sieto. Following the Lord's death, riots broke out, and Melramark's soldiers used the chaos as an excuse to clap the region to destruction. Villages were razed, and surviving demi-humans were captured and sold into slavery. She too was among those taken, and even now, she's haunted by the memories of her captivity. Soon after, they arrive at Lord Van's estate. Though Nofumi remains wary, Van receives them with unexpected warmth. Meanwhile, the girls behave like broke losers and take comfort in the rare luxury offered to them. However, that peace doesn't last long. The very next day, another noble raidier arrives at Van's estate, marching in with a full-blown army and demanding the surrender of the shield hero and his companions. As chaos brews, Nofumi and Raphtalia quickly hide while Melty steps forward to handle the situation. In that moment, Raphtalia recognizes Radier, the same noble who once enslaved her. Angere rises in her throat, but Nofumi gently reminds her to wait for the right moment. Outside, Radier mocks Melty's rank and lures her into following him under the pretense of contacting the king. The moment they leave, Nofumi gathers his party and prepares for a swift rescue before Radier, the last chair bender, does something irreversible. That night, they launch their attack. Nofumi and Philo take down the guards with precision. Raphtalia charges straight for Radier. Blow after blow, she wrecks the Chonxilla who shattered her childhood. As Raphtalia prepares to deliver the final blow to Radier, Nofumi stops her. He calmly asks if she's truly comfortable being remembered as the one who butchered the Lord of the Leftovers. Realizing that ending Radier herself would only mirror the cruelty she suffered, Raphtalia lowers her blade and chooses to spare Sir Slayer of Toilet Seats. However, Radier takes advantage of her hesitation and lunges at her in a desperate last attempt to turn the tide. But in the chaos of the struggle, he loses his footing and plunges to his death. The group then recalls Radier's underground dungeon and the countless slaves he had imprisoned there. Determined to free them, Raphtalia leads the way. As they descend into the cold, dark cells, memories begin to haunt Raphtalia of her time in these very cells. Among those memories are two of her dearest friends, Rafana and Keel. She remembers how the three of them had clung to each other for strength, but when she and Rafana were taken away to another holding cell, Keel was left behind and brutally beaten by guards. Raphtalia and Rafana suffered together until they were eventually separated. She was sold off to a slave merchant, while Rafana watched behind the bars with tears in her eyes. Back in the present, the group begins freeing the captives. To Raphtalia's astonishment, one of them is Keel, alive but injured. Nofumi quickly heals him. Through tears, Keel says that Rafana would have been proud to see what Raphtalia had become. The mention of Rafana sends her running to the last cell, but what she finds leaves her frozen in place, a skeleton, lying in silence. Rafana had died alone. Raphtalia collapses, overcome with grief. Through sobs, she blames herself for being too late, calling herself useless. Nofumi kneels beside her and reminds Raphtalia that she's anything but useless as she has saved lives, given people hope, and to him, she is irreplaceable. As the group leaves the dungeon, they spot a shocking scene just beyond the estate grounds. Radier, somehow alive, attempts to awaken a long-forgotten beast. Nofumi watches in disbelief, wondering how Radier's chunk body had survived the earlier fall. But the fatty does not stay breathing for long. The moment the seal breaks and the dragon awakens, it lashes out. Without even looking, the creature swats Radier beneath its massive claws, crushing him instantly. With that, Nofumi and his team brace themselves. Deep within a forest, a mysterious girl with white wings is seen conversing with a Philolial. She speaks of finding a worthy queen candidate and quietly hopes to meet her soon. Meanwhile, chaos erupts back at Rabier's estate, where the newly freed dragon lays waste to everything in its path. Wasting no time, Philo launches herself at the beast, but her efforts prove as worthless as your attempt to study. Observing the battle, Melty suddenly notices a faint pink glow emanating from both Philo's and the dragon's abdomens. This clue prompts Naofumi to piece things together. Elolials and dragons have a deep-rooted animosity, and this particular dragon is specifically targeting Philo. Realizing this, Naofumi quickly forms a plan. They'll use Philo as bait to draw the dragon away from the town, sparing the civilians from further destruction. As the group prepares to leave, Raphtalia hesitates, reluctant to abandon her friend. Seeing this, Keel gently encourages her to go. Moved by his words, Raphtalia hands him her mana-enhancing bracelet and entrusts him to Van's care before rushing off to rejoin Naofumi. Together, Naofumi, Philo, Raphtalia, and Melty lead the dragon into open wilderness. There, they unleash several coordinated attacks, but the beast continues to overpower them. With few options left, Naofumi steels himself and begins summoning the Wrath Shield. Just as the transformation begins, a mysterious voice interrupts him, warning him not to rely on that power again. At that same moment, Melty spots a thick misty barrier forming around them, flowing with magical energy. Then, without warning, an enormous flock of Philolials descends from the sky, surrounding the dragon in an organized formation. As Naofumi once again reaches for the Wrath Shield, the same voice halts him once more, this time forcibly preventing the transformation. From the depths of the nearby lake, a towering figure emerges, the Philolial Queen herself. Her presence alone silences the area. She gives the dragon a stern warning to retreat. When it refuses, she wastes no time and effortlessly dispatches the beast, stunning everyone with her sheer power. Turning her attention to Naofumi, the queen calmly expresses a desire to speak with him. But before that, she shifts into her human form and introduces herself as Fitoria, recognizing her immediately. Melty recalls a past diplomatic mission where she met the queen and shares her memory with Naofumi. Fitoria then explains that since Philo was raised by a hero, she possesses unique potential and may have a potential to become the Philolial Queen herself. Wanting to continue the conversation in a safer location, she escorts the group to the ruins of an ancient Philolial sanctuary, once protected by the heroes of old. Later that evening, the group prepares a meal from the slain dragon's meat. As they eat and rest, Fitoria opens up about the growing crisis. She explains that Philo's accelerated growth and special traits are the direct result of being nurtured by a hero. However, her tone quickly shifts as she voices disappointment with the current generation of heroes since they are divided by petty conflict. Fitoria further reveals the waves are not limited to Melromark, but are a worldwide phenomenon. Each cardinal hero is meant to defend a separate nation, and their current disunity is endangering not just one kingdom, but the entire world. Elsewhere in Melromark, Ren and Itsuki sneak into the Church of the Three Heroes' hidden archives. Hoping to uncover why Naofumi has been vilified so severely, they comb through forbidden documents. Unbeknownst to them, Melty has been watching from the shadows, unimpressed and clearly displeased with their growing curiosity. At the sanctuary, Fitoria continues her plea, urging Naofumi to make peace with the other heroes, but when he refuses, she abruptly shifts her tone and declares that if the heroes cannot unite, then she will take matters into her own hands and eliminate them all. The next morning, Naofumi sits in silence, brooding over Fitoria's ultimatum to eliminate all 4 cardinal heroes if they fail to unite against the waves. As the group eats breakfast, Fitoria suddenly locks Melty in a swirling prison of magical wind. With a firm tone, she explains that this is not an act of cruelty, but a necessary push. She reveals that she once made a promise to the hero who raised her, a vow to protect the world from destruction, and to honor that, the current heroes must work together. Pressured by her tactics, Naofumi holds his ground and warns her to stop or risk testing his wrath. He reaches for the Rage Shield, but before the transformation can complete, Fitoria halts it once again. Instead, she proposes a challenge, a one-on-one duel between Philo and herself, both in their human forms. If Philo can prove herself, Fitoria promises to spare Melty and the other heroes for now. With no choice, they all agree as the magical arena rises around them, sealing the 2 combatants inside while Naofumi and the others watch closely. Philo rushes into battle, but it's quickly clear that Fitoria's strength and speed far surpassed her own. Meanwhile, Naofumi desperately tries to free Melty, but is intercepted by a strike from Fitoria's magic, one strong enough to bypass his defenses. Seeing Naofumi injured enrages Philo, while Fitoria calmly draws mana from the surrounding air and prepares to finish the fight. Suddenly, Naofumi shouts out, urging Philo to observe her opponent's movements. The advice triggers a memory in Fitoria, echoing the very words her own hero once told her long ago. Taken aback, she falters just long enough for Philo to strike with a new attack. Pyro Strike, a move mimicking the swipe of a golden talon. The blow connects, piercing through Fitoria's defense. Exhausted but unshaken, Philo stands her ground. She declares her intent to grow stronger and protect those she loves. A smile forms on Fitoria's face as she ends the duel, naming Philo the victor. Vittoria then reveals the battle was a test to determine whether Philo was worthy of becoming her successor. With that, Philo is officially declared the future Philolial queen. A beautiful crown appears above her head but quickly dissolves into a small calyx sprouting from her hair, arcing her place in the royal line and in the hearts of fat weaves. After healing Nofume's wounds, Vittoria offers him a calyx of her own, unlocking a new power in his shield, the Philolial series. She also apologizes to Melty by allowing her to ride on her giant bird form, soaring briefly through the sky before returning safely. Later that evening, Vittoria approaches Naofumi for a private conversation. She gently asks whether he has ever truly tried to clear his name. Taken aback, Naofumi admits he hasn't, not because he didn't care, but because he assumed no one would listen. Vittoria doesn't criticize him outright, but she reminds him that by choosing silence, he allowed the lies to persist. She then shares her plan. It will return to Melromark, where Naofumi will have a chance to speak with one of the other heroes. However, she warns that she will only step in if he shows he's worthy of her help. When Naofumi asks why she's placing her faith in him, Vittoria reveals that she holds him in higher regard than the others, not only for raising Philo into a worthy heir, but because she believes he alone has the potential to bring the heroes together. Understanding the weight of that responsibility, Naofumi agrees to accept her guidance. Vittoria then teaches him a spell to help manage the dark influence of the Wrath Shield, which will help him use the power without losing himself. As the night deepens, Vittoria rests her head on Naofumi's lap, closing her eyes as he gently pets her hair, marking a beginning of a new harem route. The following day, Vittoria safely transports Naofumi and his companions to a new location, gifting them an old but sturdy wagon, much to Philo's delight. Before departing, she shares with Naofumi and the gang that she senses the presence of another hero nearby and urges him to mend his relationships so the heroes can be united. Motivated by her words, Naofumi decides to approach the hero stationed at the next checkpoint. However, to his dismay, the person waiting there is none other than Motoyasu, already red with fury. Without listening to reason, Motoyasu accuses Naofumi of causing the deaths of Ren and Itsuki. Naofumi tries to defend himself, asserting that he had nothing to do with the incident, but the ugly hoe dramatically claims that Naofumi released a terrifying monster upon a defenseless town, further fueling Motoyasu's hatred. Without a moment's hesitation, Motoyasu draws his weapon, swearing to send Naofumi to the deepest layers of hell while Malty traps Naofumi and his party within a magical lightning cage, forcing them into a battle they never asked for. Realizing Malty probably gave Motoyasu a foot job to dull his brain, Naofumi reluctantly prepares for battle and eventually overpowers the spear hero. Just as the tide seems to turn in his favor, Philo urgently warns Naofumi to brace for impact, sensing a powerful force drawing near. Trusting her instincts, Naofumi immediately boosts his shield's defenses, shielding not only his own party, but even Motoyasu and his allies. Moments later, a devastating beam of energy crashes into the area, obliterating everything in its path. As the dust settles, Pope Balmus steps forward, calmly applauding Naofumi's survival, impressed that he managed to withstand the divine judgment spell. However, his praise quickly turns sinister, as he declares his intent to cleanse the world of the current heroes, whom he views as nothing more than spoiled brats playing around. Malty, furious at the Pope's betrayal, demands answers, but Balmus confidently brushes her aside, revealing his plan to seize control of the entire kingdom. Then, without hesitation, he admits to orchestrating the deaths of Ren and Itsuki. The revelation stuns everyone. For the first time, Motoyasu hesitates. He glances at Naofumi and wonders if the shield hero was a nice dude after all. But before he can do anything, the Pope lifts up the sacred weapon, ready to fire the judgment spell again. Weakened from battle, Naofumi finds himself in a tough spot, as Pope Balmus raises his golden weapon high into the air, and it begins to shift between sword, spear, and bow. Recognizing the danger, Melty quickly explains that the weapon is a replica of the 3 legendary weapons, a sacred artifact which everyone thought had vanished, but clearly, that was another lie crafted by the church. Infuriated by the deception, Naofumi turns to Melty and demands to know why the kingdom even bothered summoning heroes like him if such a weapon already existed. In response, Melty clarifies that while the cardinal replica is powerful, its mana cost is enormous. Just one strike drains a vast amount of energy, making it unsustainable, which is why they summoned 4 unemployed losers from a different world. So they each wield their own separate weapon to distribute the burden. Refusing to stand by, Motoyasu leaps into action and launches an attack at Balmus. However, his efforts are easily deflected. Undeterred, he delivers an impassioned speech, proclaiming himself the hero who will save everyone. Watching Motoyasu, Naofumi realizes he probably graduated from Kai Cenat's Streamer University. The spear hero strikes again, only to fail once more. Naofumi then notices the Pope is sucking out immense energy from the surrounding believers, who are funneling mana into the weapon. Just as things start to look hopeless, Ren and Itsuki arrive and momentarily disrupt Balmus's mana flow. The heroes reveal that they survived an assassination attempt and have returned with critical information. Their investigation into the church's corruption led to the attack, ordered by Balmus himself. Fortunately, the Queen and her network of spies intervened, helping them escape and regroup. with the Pope distracted and weakened. Ren and Itsuki propose an alliance to bring him down, but Nofumi coldly reminds them of how they treated him in the past, how they doubted him, abandoned him, and forced him to clean up their crap without getting any payback. He even claims that in his eyes, they were no better than the Pope, using their power carelessly and causing harm wherever they went. Yet when Nofumi looks toward his companions, Raftalia, Philo, and even Nelti, he remembers the promise he made to Vittoria. Unity is the only way forward, at least for now. Reluctantly, he agrees to fight alongside them, but makes it clear, once Balmus is defeated, their paths will separate again. The three heroes nod in understanding, accepting Nofumi's terms. At that moment, the Pope finishes his incantation and unleashes his next terrifying spell. The cathedral and a colossal structure of magical light surrounds the entire battlefield. Elsewhere in the kingdom, Queen Marilia dons her armor in silence, preparing to confront Pope Balmus and his cult of Gunners. As she readies her forces, she quietly prays for the safety of Nofumi and Nelti, knowing the chaos unfolding ahead will test them all. Back inside the blinding walls of the cathedral, Nofumi quickly realizes that their combined efforts are proving useless since Balmus's divine shield renders him practically untouchable. Outside, one of the bishops pleads with Balmus, warning that if the followers continue donating their mana, unmoved, the Pope coldly declares that dying for their god is a sacred honor. And so the bishop turns to the crowd and urges them to give their lives in service to Balmus and his holy crusade. Watching this cult of clowns, Nofumi decides to unleash the Wrath Shield. Once again, the sinister voice of the zombie dragon rises from within, tempting him to give in to hatred. But this time, Nofumi resists, until the dragon reveals that this rage isn't something borrowed, but something that has always belonged to him. Flashes of his past torment, betrayal, and isolation flood his mind. As Nofumi sees his pain laid bare, he accepts that punching walls and gym won't fix him. Now consumed by fury, Nofumi transforms into a force of destruction, ready to burn the world down. But just as the darkness begins to take over, he sees Raftelia's kindness, Philo's loyalty, and Nelti's trust. Their voices reach him, promising to stand by him and carry his pain together. And slowly, Nofumi pulls himself back from the darkness. Turning to the girls with a rare softness, he asks the girls if they want to offer him oral support. Now is the time. Nelti, however, reminds him that they are very much still in the middle of a battle. Snapping back, Nofumi finally looks to the other heroes and asks for their help. Surprised but motivated, the three heroes join forces with Nofumi. Together, they launch a coordinated assault on the Pope. But even then, Balmus remains untouched. Just then, Queen Marilia arrives on the battlefield, channeling powerful magic. She casts a freezing spell that halts Balmus in his tracks, locking him in place. Without wasting a moment, Nofumi unlocks a terrifying new ability from the Rage Shield, Blood Sacrifice. As the spell activates, blood begins to pour from Nofumi's body, seeping into the earth. An ugly massive shield forms from the ground and swallows the Pope like your mom swallowed your possible siblings. The walls of the cathedral crumble and vanish, and with that Nofumi collapses to the ground. Rushing to his side, Queen Marilia kneels beside him, placing a hand on his chest. With a fierce yet motherly resolve, she declares that she will not allow the shield hero to die. Odd after everything he has endured, Nofumi jolts awake in shock, only to find his harem fast asleep beside him. Waking up, Raftalia reassures him that Queen Marilia's healing had stabilized him, but the curse of blood sacrifice had left deep, lingering damage that even the Queen's magic couldn't fully undo it, so he has to let time heal him. Just then, Queen Marilia enters and Nofumi eyes her with curiosity and suspicion. He finally voiced the question that had haunted him from the start. Why does Melramark loathe the shield hero? The Queen answers that during the second apocalyptic wave, she had been away at an international forum where global leaders agreed that each country would summon a single cardinal hero. She left the trusted Lord of Sieto to maintain order, but during the wave, he was slain. With no patience or foresight, King Alt-Cray panicked and broke international protocol, summoning all four heroes at once. This reckless act soured relations with the other nations, forcing Marilia to stay abroad longer, and in her absence, Alt-Cray and Malti acted like the real world's leaders. But when the answer doesn't satisfy him, the Queen hesitantly admits that the Church of the Three Heroes already despised the shield hero, and both the King and Malti harbored personal hatred because he was packing a python in his pants. This prompts Nofumi to wonder how different his life would have been if he'd been summoned elsewhere. Marilia gently confirms that if he had been summoned in Silthel, where the shield hero is revered, he would have been treated like royalty with 72 femboys and goth mummies at his service. When Marilia offers to clear his name and shower him with gold, Nofumi remains unmoved. He states his intent to leave Melramark behind and face the waves wherever they may appear. The Queen nods, understanding that trust isn't rebuilt in a day. However, later, in private, she makes one final request, and asks Nofumi to attend the trial of King Alt-Cray and Princess Malti. That night, Nofumi dreams of guillotines and justice. Haunted by the imagery of their execution, he wakes up unsettled but determined. The next morning, Nofumi's party, along with the other 3 heroes, gather in the throne room for the trial. King Alcray and Malty are dragged in chains before the court. Queen Marilia announces that a slave crest will be used to reveal the truth. As the trial unfolds, Malty's web of lies is unraveled. Her conspiracy with the Pope, her betrayal of her sister, the false diddling accusation against Nofumi, and her countless other crimes are then exposed. Motohiyasu, stunned into silence, realizes he'd been played like a fool by a woman who didn't even have bazookas as big as Tsuneda's. As the king and princess are found guilty of high treason, the people of Melromark, watching from outside, cry out for justice. But just as the executioners step forward, Nofumi speaks. He explains bluntly that he keeps having nightmares of Malty and the king being executed, and if he's going to dream of anyone, it better be of Nala riding him like he is Simba. Instead of execution, he proposes something more poetic, strip them of their titles and identities. The queen agrees at once, eager to honor his mercy. From that moment on, the king is renamed as Trash, and Malty earns the title of the hoe that uses too much teeth. After the trial, Queen Marilia formally dissolves the corrupt 3 Heroes Church and reinstates the long-buried 4 Heroes Church, ensuring the Shield Hero will finally be honored once again in Melromark's doctrine. Still, Nofumi refuses any further reward, as his mission lies beyond the throne and gold. He then declares his intent to continue battling the waves, wherever they arise. As he and his party prepare to leave, Melty rushes out to see them off. She promises to fix the mess her family created and to make Melromark a land that deserves its heroes. Outside the castle gates, soldiers and citizens bow as Nofumi walks past. Melty, teary-eyed, thanks him for everything, and in return, Nofumi smiles with genuine peace, vowing to face the waves not just as Melromark's hero, but as the Shield Hero. The following morning, Nofumi is gently shaken awake by Raphtalia, who excitedly shows him the updated crest of the church, now proudly bearing symbols of all 4 cardinal heroes. With renewed motivation, he tells Raphtalia it's time to get their long-awaited class upgrades. Upon arrival at the Dragon Hourglass, they meet Aki, who now oversees its functions. However, after several attempts, Nofumi and his girls are informed that the upgrades they seek aren't available. Later, they relay the news to Queen Marilia at the palace. She listens calmly and explains that sometimes the hourglass reacts that way as certain classes may be restricted or blocked under unusual magical circumstances. Shifting the subject, she informs Nofumi that a banquet is being held and all 4 heroes are required to attend. That evening, Nofumi, still dwelling on their failed upgrade attempt, quietly apologizes to Raphtalia. He confesses that he just wants to ensure she and Philo can stand strong even if he's no longer around one day. Raphtalia opens her mouth to respond, but before she can speak, Nofumi is summoned by the queen for a private meeting. The banquet, however, is far from peaceful. Melty notices Malty lurking suspiciously in the corner, looking like she's up to her usual behavior. Things spiral when a drunken knight mocks Raphtalia, calling her an ugly version of Holo. The insult cuts deep, and Raphtalia, boiling with fury, challenges him to a duel on the spot. Meanwhile, in the royal chamber, Queen Marilia scans the tense expressions of the other heroes and asks if they are all having sperm cramps at once. She then explains that training in Kalmyra can be beneficial for them as it grants heroes and adventurers enhanced X gain, and this could be vital for surviving the next wave. The mention perks up the heroes until Melty suddenly storms in with urgent news. She announces that Malty attempted to poison the banquet's drinks. Motoyasu, still a white knight, refuses to believe it, crying out in denial. But the queen silences him by using Malty's slave crest, which confirms her guilt without question. As chaos erupts in the banquet hall, heroes descend into another petty argument. Ren accuses Nofumi of cheating, claiming his shield is too cool to be legit. They begin comparing the quirks of their weapons. Motoyasu discusses weapon copying, Ren brags about crafting, and Itsuki mentions teleportation. Nofumi, dumbfounded, cries internally, knowing he has 2 more seasons to do. That night, after the mayhem dies down, Philo sleeps curled up next to Melty while Nofumi and Raphtalia reflect under the moonlight. Still mulling over what the others said, Nofumi fixates on the weapon copying ability. To his shock, his shield suddenly responds, unlocking the copy skill on its own. At sunrise, just as the other heroes prepare to leave for Kalmyra, Queen Marilia informs Nofumi that a separate ship will be ready for his party within 24 hours. This time, Melty chooses to stay behind to fulfill her royal duties. Before heading to the port, Nofumi stops by Elhart's weapon shop, where he gleefully touches everything in sight to copy new shields, much to Elhart's irritation. On the road to the ship, Raphtalia asks to visit her old village, which is now in ruins. Together, they walk among the remnants of her past, paying respects at the graves of her friends and family, including Rifana, standing before the final resting place of her loved ones. Raphtalia turns to Nofumi and softly admits that she cannot imagine a world without you. Nofumi replies back, stating that he is not going anywhere since the other heroes are nothing but morons. Upon boarding the ship bound for the Kalmyra archipelago, Nofumi encounters 2 strange travelers named Berg and the Rees. as introductions are exchanged. His identity as the shield hero draws immediate laughter from the pair. Berg mocks him by saying that if he is the shield hero, then he is Mikasa. Ignoring the jab, Nofumi remains composed until Berg, still amused, proposes teaming up for the upcoming leveling grind. However, before a response can be given, the ship's captain calls for Nofumi to make an appearance on deck, eager to showcase the legendary heroes to his crew. On the way up, Nofumi contemplates sharing news of his newly unlocked weapon copying skill with the others, but upon arrival, he finds them nauseated and slumped over from seasickness. Ren, irritated by Nofumi's steady condition, states that it's all because he has a cooler weapon. The encounter is soon interrupted as the Reese approaches and requests a custom piece of jewelry, handing Nofumi a unique crystal to forge with. He accepts the commission without hesitation, viewing it as a worthwhile distraction. Once they reach Kalmyra, Nofumi and his team separate from Berg and the Reese as they dive straight into their level-up preparations. Unfortunately, their efforts are short-lived as Itsuki, Motohiyasu, and Ren arrive and immediately clash over territory rights. Tired of the constant bickering, Nofumi withdraws from the argument entirely. Later that evening, after noting the lingering aftereffects of the blood sacrifice spell, Nofumi joins a casual drinking gathering with Berg and the Reese. By the next day, Nofumi completes the Reese's bracelet using the gem she provided. Pleased with the result, she compensates him generously, and together, the group sets out for another round of leveling. Upon reaching their destination, they are swiftly ambushed by a swarm of monsters. The Reese activates the Ruby's magic, which not only incinerates the enemy forces, but unexpectedly purifies the remnants of the blood sacrifice's curse from Nofumi's body. Following the battle and the division of spoils, Nofumi extends an invitation for Berg and the Reese to join his group permanently. Surprisingly, Berg declines and both parties part ways on friendly terms. Shortly after, Nofumi and his companions venture toward the beach, where they uncover a structure beneath the ocean's surface. Within it lies a colossal dragon hourglass, which ominously reveals that the next wave will arrive in just 2 days. Upon discovering the imminent arrival of the next wave, Nofumi wastes no time and teleports directly to the castle to inform Queen Aurelia. Acting swiftly, the Queen organizes a military fleet to support the Cardinal heroes in the battle ahead. Assessing the situation, Nofumi predicts that the wave will strike offshore, prompting the Queen to commission multiple ships to prepare for a sea-based confrontation. Meanwhile, Raphtalia voices concern for the residents of Kalmyra, but Marilia assures her that Earl Havenberg has already completed the evacuation, easing her worries. Despite the looming threat, Ren, Motohiyasu, and Itsuki remain unwilling to cooperate as their egos prevent any form of unity. In his assigned vessel, Nofumi spots Berg and the Reese aboard another ship and comments to Melty that those two seem far more reliable than the so-called heroes from his own world. As the wave strikes, a colossal sea creature emerges as the main threat. While Ren, Motohiyasu, and Itsuki prove useless as usual, Nofumi and his team, with the combined efforts of Berg and the Reese, manage to defeat the boss. However, the victory celebration is short-lived. In the aftermath, Berg and the Reese reveal they are heroes from another world, now convinced that Nofumi truly is the shield hero. They disclose their mission is to eliminate the heroes of this world to prevent the collapse of their own. With that, they turn against Nofumi, initiating a fierce battle. To Nofumi's shock, their strength surpasses expectations, with both managing to inflict damage despite his shield's defenses. The situation escalates further when Glass makes her entrance, aligning herself with Berg and the Reese, confirming that she too comes from the same parallel world. With Glass joining the battle, Nofumi quickly realizes the odds are against him. Facing all 3 enemies simultaneously would be insane, so he assigns Raphtalia, Philo, and Melty to handle Berg and the Reese while he takes on Glass alone. Eager for a one-on-one, Glass agrees. Nofumi goes through his shields and soon discovers that Glass struggles against his Soul Eater shield. He warns her that continued attacks will force the shield to devour her entirely. Unfazed, Glass declares her unwavering resolve to defend her world. Even at the cost of her life, she urges Nofumi to do the same if he truly wishes to protect his own. As Nofumi begins to doubt whether he has the heart to carry the burden of a true hero, Raphtalia steps in, boldly stating her desire to protect her world and her friends. Her words dissolve Nofumi's hesitation, and he prepares to activate the blood sacrifice when Queen Marilia intervenes, drenching Glass with strong alcohol. Disoriented and unable to fight properly, Glass is forced to stop. Berg quickly appears, telling her it's time to retreat. With no other option, the 3 opponents return to their own world. In the following days, Nofumi wrestles with the possibility of having to fight and slay heroes from other worlds. Realizing he'll need more allies, he takes the chance to recruit Lisha, a girl Itsuki kicked out of his party over something petty. Soon after, Queen Marilia rewards Nofumi for his victory against the Pope by granting him control over the Sieto region. Returning to the area that once brought pain and loss, Raphtalia asks why he chose this particular land. Nofumi explains that he wants to use it as a training ground, a base where they can prepare for the next wave properly. Touched by his resolve, Raphtalia asks him never to leave. Nofumi, now more certain of his path, promises to stay and protect the people who stood by him. Do you think Nofumi will take down heroes from another world? Comment I love Nala if you agree. And if you like anime recaps, then watch this video here.